Her family forced her to marry her sister's millionaire fiancé, but fate made him. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let us return to our main character. She stood frozen in the bridal fitting room, the zipper of the white wedding gown still halfway open, the scent of lilies sharp in the air as the door slammed against the wall. Her mother rushed in, face drained of color, lips trembling as if she had just sentenced her own daughter. "You will take your sister's place." The 4 words scraped across the floor like metal. Before she could understand, her sister appeared in the doorway. Mascara-streaked eyes, bloodshot, voice cracked from crying. "Don't go out there. It's not a wedding, it's a trap." Then 2 men in black suits walked in. Their eyes didn't ask permission. They measured her like a package already sold and sealed. One of them leaned close, his voice soft but sharpened with threat. "The agreement must be honored. If not, your family knows what will happen." From down the hallway came a violent thud followed by a low, commanding voice. The kind that didn't need to be loud to dominate the air. "Bring her to me, now!" Her mother yanked her toward the door. Her sister grabbed her other arm, screaming through tears. "If you walk down that aisle, you won't come back the same. Don't go." She stood between them, one hand pulling her toward safety, the other toward duty, while at the end of the hallway, the stranger she had never met waited for her, as if he had always known she would come. And in that moment, she understood fate had chosen her, without ever asking if she wanted to be chosen. Her sister's grip loosened first. Fear hollowed her eyes. "They'll destroy us if you refuse. Please, just survive." Her mother's fingers dug harder into her skin, dragging her out of the room and toward the waiting men. There is no choice, not anymore. The corridor outside felt colder, narrower, as if the walls themselves were closing in on her. The 2 men escorted her, like she was a priceless item under transport, not a terrified girl being forced into someone else's life. She tried to speak, but the words stuck to her throat. "Where is he?" she whispered. One guard replied without looking at her, "Waiting." And he doesn't like waiting. Every step toward the end of the hall tightened her chest. She imagined the groom, a dangerous man, according to her sister, furious that his bride had run, furious that she was the replacement. They stopped in front of a door. One of the guards knocked. A deep voice answered, "Send her in." They pushed the door open. She stepped inside. The room was dim lit only by the cold glow of a floor lamp. He stood with his back to her, tall, composed hands in his pockets, as though hosting a business meeting, not a corrupted wedding ritual. He turned slowly. His eyes locked on her face, traveled down the trembling lines of her body, then returned to her eyes with unsettling clarity. Her breath stalled. He wasn't shocked. He wasn't confused. He wasn't even curious. He looked at her as if he had been expecting exactly her. She swallowed hard. "I'm not." He cut her off, stepping closer with the calm confidence of a man who never needed to raise his voice to be obeyed. "You're late." She flinched. "Late? For what?" A faint, almost unreadable smile touched his lips, too controlled to be kind, too gentle to be threatening. "For me." Her heartbeat stumbled. You know I'm not my sister." "I know," he said simply. No hesitation, no doubt, no anger, just certainty. She took a shaky step back. "Then, why won't you stop this?" He studied her with unnerving patience, then said quietly, "Because you're the one who's supposed to be here." Her mouth fell open, but he continued, before she could speak. "You will walk beside me today, not her." His voice softened but lost none of its weight. "And once you do, you won't stand alone again." The door behind her clicked shut. The guards were gone. It was just him, this stranger who knew her name, her face, her arrival before she ever stepped into the room. Her pulse hammered painfully against her ribs. "Why me?" she whispered. He stepped close enough that she felt the warmth of his breath against her forehead. "You'll understand soon." Then with a touch so light it startled her, he lifted her chin. "Come. The ceremony won't wait." Her knees weakened as he guided her toward the door. Somewhere in the distance she heard wedding bells. She felt nothing like a bride. only a girl being carried by a force far bigger and darker than she understood, a force that started terrifyingly with him. She didn't realize she'd been holding her breath until the door closed behind them, and the world shrank to the four quiet walls of the preparation room. The hum of the wedding hall faded, replaced by the sound of her own pulse pounding in her ears. He stood a few steps away, his presence filling the room with a gravity that made the air feel heavier. He said nothing at first. He simply watched her, not with suspicion, not with anger, but with a sharp, unsettling awareness, like a man recognizing something he had been expecting. "You know I'm not my sister," she forced out, her voice trembling. He didn't blink. "I know." The calmness of the answer sliced through her panic. She stepped back until her shoulders hit the wall. Then, "Who told you to continue the wedding? My mother, the guards, someone else?" Her voice cracked with desperate confusion. He slipped one hand into his pocket as though the question didn't surprise him. "No one told me," he said. "I decided." Her chest tightened. "Decided what?" "That you would be the bride." She shook her head violently. "You don't even know me." His gaze didn't waver. "Don't I?" A chill crawled along her spine. She wrapped her arms around herself as if that could shield her from the way he looked at her, too directly, too deeply, too knowingly. "I don't understand," she whispered. He moved then, closing the distance between them with slow, purposeful steps. He didn't touch her, but the closeness alone made her nerves spark. "You weren't supposed to know anything today," he said quietly. "But your family broke the terms." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a thick folder. "This is the agreement your parents signed." She stared at it as if it were a bomb. He opened it. Loan documents, security clauses, legal penalties. A final page stamped in red. "Failure to complete the union will result in full forfeiture." Her breath hitched. They signed this. They had no choice." He replied, "And neither do you." Her knees weakened and she slid down the wall until she was sitting on the edge of the sofa. She pressed her fists to her mouth to muffle a sob. "Why us? Why my family?" He knelt in front of her, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Because someone wants access to me," he said. "And your family was the easiest point of entry." She froze. "What are you talking about?" He didn't answer immediately. He leaned back slightly, studying her face like a puzzle he already knew the final picture of. Then he said, "There is a man who intends to destroy everything I own and everyone connected to me. Your sister was meant to be a shield. When she ran, the threat moved to you." "Threat," she breathed. "What threat?" He looked away for the first time since she entered the room. His jaw clenched. "A man who has tried to kill me 3 times, who thinks I have a weakness, and he believes..." His voice dropped. "He believes that weakness is you." Her mind blanked. "Me?" "I don't even know him." "You don't need to," he said softly. "He knows you." Her skin prickled with dread. Why would someone I've never met want me dead?" He didn't answer. Instead, he stood and offered her his hand. She didn't take it. "Tell me," she insisted. "I deserve to know." His shoulders rose and fell with a slow, tired breath. "You'll know when it's time. That's not good enough." He stepped closer, frustration flickering in his eyes. "If I tell you now, you'll panic. And if you panic, you'll run. And if you run, you'll die." His voice softened. "I'm not willing to risk that." Her heart thudded painfully. "So, I'm supposed to just trust you," he said. "You're supposed to stay alive." Silence stretched between them. Finally, he looked at the gold watch on his wrist. "In 10 minutes, they expect us on the aisle. After that, the contract is sealed. They can't touch your family. They can't touch you." She swallowed hard. "And after the wedding, what then?" He said, his voice low and steady. "You stay in my house, under my protection, under my roof, and I keep you safe until I end this." "That sounds like a prison." His jaw tightened. "It's safety. It's control. It's reality." He held out his hand again. "I won't force you to touch me, but you will walk beside me for your sake." Her fingers trembled as she stared at his hand. "Why me?" she whispered. His eyes softened, a strange, unreadable softness that made her heart pause. "Because," he said quietly, "you're the one who's supposed to be here." Her breath caught. Before she could ask anything else, he added, "And when this is over, You'll understand why I recognized you the moment you walked into this room." She blinked. "Recognized me?" He didn't answer. He simply turned toward the door, fawned, opened it, and said the words that sealed her fate. "Come, it's time." Her legs felt like water, her heart like glass, but she followed him because behind those doors, the world was waiting, and because staying with him, even in fear, felt like the only path that didn't end in darkness. The music hit her like a physical force, the moment the doors opened, too loud, too grand, too bright for a ceremony built on fear. The chandeliers glittered above her like 100 cold suns as the guests turned their whispers rising like a tide. She felt the weight of every stare pressing into her skin, judging her, questioning her, dissecting her. Her fingers trembled beneath the sheer veil as she took her first step into the aisle. "She doesn't look like the photo," someone whispered. "Is that really the bride? I thought the sister was prettier." Every word stabbed, every breath hurt, but the two guards behind her nudged her forward, leaving her no chance to turn back. At the end of the aisle, he stood waiting, tall, poised, composed, not a hint of surprise on his face, as if the chaos outside the doors had never touched him. As she moved closer, she kept expecting to see anger, disappointment, suspicion. Instead, his eyes tracked her every step like he had been watching her long before she entered the room. When she finally reached him, he extended his hand. His touch was warm, solid, unshakably steady. Her heart wasn't. The officiant cleared his throat, but before the ceremony could continue, a disturbance erupted at the back of the hall. Gasps rippled through the guests. A woman was pushing her way in, her sister. "Stop!" her sister cried. "Stop the wedding. She's not me." The room broke into murmurs. Phones lifted, cameras flashed. Guests craned their necks as if watching a scandal bloom in real time. Her sister tried to shove past the guards, tears streaking her cheeks. "Don't do this. She doesn't know what she's walking into." The guards held her back. The music surged. The officiant motioned to continue. Her chest constricted, she glanced at the groom, expecting irritation or anger at the interruption. He didn't even look at her sister. His eyes stayed on her, steady, unbothered, though almost possessive. The officiant lifted the book again. "Shall we begin?" She inhaled sharply as he took her hand again, guiding her a half step closer, positioning her exactly where he wanted her. Her sister's screams were muffled as the doors were pushed closed behind her. The officiant continued. "Do you, the groom, take this woman?" "I do," he said before the sentence was even finished. The rapid certainty of it made her knees wobble. Then the officiant turned to her. Her throat instantly dried, her vision blurred. "Do you take this man?" Her voice wouldn't come. The world seemed to tilt. The truth pressed against her ribs, desperate to be spoken. His fingers tightened around hers, not painfully, just enough to say, "Don't destroy yourself. Not here. Not now." Her eyes snapped to his. There was no threat in his gaze, no warning, only a quiet, unwavering promise she didn't know how to read. Her lips trembled. "I do." The officiant smiled and continued, but she barely heard the words. Her pulse drowned everything out. When the rings were offered, he didn't hesitate. He slid the band onto her finger with deliberate care, as though sealing something more than a contract, something deeper, something ancient. She lifted the ring with shaking fingers and placed it on his hand. His skin was warm, his breath steady, his presence overwhelming. "You may lift the veil," the officiant announced. Her breath caught as he reached up. His fingers brushed the fabric, then her cheek beneath it. The veil rose slow and deliberate until her face was fully exposed to him. He didn't smile. He didn't blink. He simply looked at her with a startling intensity, like she was something he'd been chasing, not receiving. A murmur moved through the crowd. "That's not the sister. She really is different. Why hasn't he stopped it?" He ignored them all. After a long, suspended moment, he leaned in, his lips close to her ear. "From this moment," he murmured, "no one replaces you." Her heart jolted so hard, she almost gasped. The officiant declared, "You may walk together as husband and wife." He placed his hand firmly at the small of her back and guided her down the steps, shielding her from the stares and whispers. Her legs felt weak, but every time she stumbled, his grip anchored her. Her sister appeared again near the door, still crying, still trying to reach her. But the guards blocked her, and soon the crowd swallowed her from sight. As they stepped into the quieter hallway, she finally inhaled a shaky breath. He didn't let go of her hand. She looked up at him, fear and confusion mixing in her chest. "Why did you do this?" "You knew I wasn't supposed to." He stopped walking. His hand lifted to her chin, tilting her face up. "Don't run from me," he said softly. "If you ever feel like running, run toward me first." Her breath caught. He didn't wait for her response. He simply continued walking, guiding her deeper into the corridor, deeper into a future she had never chosen. And with every step she realized something terrifying. She wasn't just walking into a marriage, she was walking into a storm. The car rolled to a stop in front of a mansion so large it seemed to swallow the lake behind it. The air outside was crisp, quiet, and unsettlingly still. Guards lined the entrance like statues, their eyes tracking her every movement as the driver opened her door. She stepped out, her heels clicking on the marble pathway. The mansion loomed above her glass walls, reflecting the gray sky sharp angles, cutting through the cold morning light. It was stunning, beautiful, imposing. It didn't feel like a home. It felt like a fortress. He appeared beside her, his presence somehow grounding and suffocating at the same time. "Come," he said simply. The guards parted the moment he walked forward. Their attention shifted from her to him, with an instinctive deference that made her realize here he was more than a groom. He was a ruler. Inside, the air smelled clean, too clean, like nothing had ever been spilled, touched, or lived in. The floors gleamed. The art was perfectly aligned. Even the silence felt curated. She paused at the foot of the sweeping staircase, her gaze drawn to the black cameras positioned near the ceiling. "You have security in every corner," she murmured. He didn't look at her when he replied, "You're safe here." Safe. The word didn't match the feeling tightening in her ribs. The housekeeper approached, bowing slightly. "Welcome, madam." The title hit her like a blow. Madam. As if this place already belonged to her. As if she belonged in it. "Your room is ready," the housekeeper continued. "My room," she whispered. He finally looked at her. "You'll have your own space." That should have relaxed her. It didn't. She followed them down a hallway lined with tall windows overlooking the lake. The sky rippled across the water fractured by the wind. Everything outside felt furry and wild. Everything inside felt scripted. When they reached her room, the door opened automatically, revealing a soft-lit space filled with neutral colors, warm textures, and her breath froze. On the nightstand was a book she'd borrowed from the library when she was 15. On the shelf was the exact brand of tea she drank every night through college. The pillows on the bed were the firm but soft kind she secretly preferred but never bought for herself. How did you know all this?" she whispered. He stood in the doorway, one hand on the frame. "It's a room meant to help you rest." "That's not an answer," she snapped before she could stop herself. Her voice trembled. "This room looks like you've known me for years." He didn't deny it. He didn't confirm it. He just said, "You should get some sleep. You haven't closed your eyes since yesterday." As he turned to leave, panic flared in her chest. "Wait." He paused. She swallowed. "Why did my sister say you were dangerous?" His jaw hardened for a split second before smoothing back into unreadable calm. "Because she didn't understand me. And I'm supposed to," "No," he said softly. "You're supposed to trust me." That wasn't any better. He left the room, but she didn't feel alone. Every camera lens felt like an eye. Every shadow in the hall felt like someone watching. Hours later, she wandered out to get water, unable to sleep in the room that seemed to know her better than she knew herself. The house was dim nighttime pooling across the floors. She found him in the living room. No lights on, no guards. Just him sitting on the couch with his elbows on his knees, head bowed. His shoulders rose and fell with uneven breaths. She stepped closer. "Are you okay?" His head lifted. In the faint glow of the moon through the windows, she saw exhaustion etched deep into his face, the kind that came from years, not days of war. "I don't sleep," he said quietly. "Not easily." She hesitated, then walked toward him. The room felt smaller with every step. For how long? His lips twitched humorless. "About 10 years. Her chest tightened. "That's not healthy. Most things in my life aren't." She looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time saw the man beneath the power, the scars beneath the silence. Before she could speak, a sound creaked above them. A door, on the second floor. Her skin prickled. "Who else is here?" "No one," he said, instantly rising to his feet. "Stay behind me." He signaled a guard with a subtle hand gesture. The man sprinted up the stairs. A minute later, the guard called down, "Sir." The door was open. His expression shifted tight, controlled panic. Which door? The one at the end of the hall. Her heart hammered. She remembered the rule he'd given her. Do not go upstairs. Do not approach that door. Not even during the day. He turned back out to her, the dark weight in his eyes stronger than anything she had seen so far. "You're never to go near that floor," he said, voice low. "No matter what you hear. No matter what opens." She swallowed. "Why? What's behind it?" He hesitated, the smallest crack in his armor, then whispered, "A part of my life I'm not ready for you to see." She felt a pull in her chest, something between fear and curiosity, but before she could speak, he stepped closer, the space between them electric. "Stay where I can protect you," he said. "I'm not losing you. Not again." Again she whispered. His eyes softened almost painfully. "You don't remember." Before she could ask what he meant, he brushed past her, ordering the guards to double security. The night swallowed his silhouette as he walked away, leaving her alone in a house full of doors and secrets, and the terrifying realization that the man she had married knew her in ways she had yet to understand. The mansion felt different the next morning, tense, crowded, suffocating. She felt it the moment she stepped into the hallway. More guards, new equipment cases stacked along the wall, technicians crawling over the security panels like the house had been breached overnight. She clutched the railing as she descended the stairs. What's happening? No one answered her. Every pair of eyes darted away, focused on some invisible threat. In the living room, she heard low voices behind the half-closed office door. She paused just 1 second too long and caught his voice sharp and controlled. "He knows she's here. Increase to red-level security. No one enters the perimeter without my approval." Her stomach dropped. He knows she's here. Who and why did it sound like her presence was a trigger for disaster? She stepped back, but the floor creaked under her heel. The voices inside the office went silent. The door opened. He stood there, calm, composed, but his eyes flicked to her with a flash of something like frustration and fear. "You shouldn't be wandering alone." She swallowed hard. "What does he know? Who are you talking about?" His jaw tightened. "Someone who should never know you exist." Her pulse quickened. "But he does." He didn't confirm it. He didn't deny it. He only said, "Come with me." He led her toward the kitchen, away from the guards, away from the questions burning her throat. But in the hallway, the housekeeper, an older woman with shaking hands, hesitated as she passed by. The woman whispered, barely audible, "He won't stop until he gets her." Her heart lurched. "Me?" The housekeeper's eyes widened as if she'd said too much. Before she could speak again, he stepped back into view, and the woman instantly lowered her gaze and hurried off. "Tell me the truth," she said, breathless. "Why is someone after me?" He didn't answer. He didn't even look back at her. He simply opened the door to the lakeside patio and stepped outside. She followed. The wind was cold, sharp, biting at her skin. Guards stood along the edges of the property now more than yesterday. More armed, more alert. She gripped her arms. "Why are they here?" "Because last night was not random," he said. "It was a warning." Her chest tightened. "You think the man who broke in, he was here for me?" "Yes." "Why?" He turned to her, then really turned his eyes dark and unyielding. "Because someone out there wants you gone. And he doesn't care who he has to kill to make it happen." Fear crawled up her spine. She took a step back without meaning to. He moved closer instantly. "I won't let anything happen to you." "That's not an answer," she whispered. His hand hovered near her elbow, not touching but close enough to remind her he could. "Not yet," he murmured. "You're not ready for the full truth." Her breath trembled. "Then help me be ready." He studied her long, silent, unreadable before finally turning away. "Come." He led her back inside and she followed, steps shaky. He took her down the hall, past murals and silent cameras until they stopped at his office. The door was ajar, and inside, scattered across his desk, were files. Photographs, her photographs, at different ages, 7, 12, 15, 18. Places she barely remembered going. Moments she hadn't known were captured. She felt the world tilt beneath her. What? What is this? He stepped behind her but didn't touch her. A record of me. Her voice trembled. You've been watching me. Not me, he said quietly. Him. Her blood ran cold. She looked again at the photo's angles from a distance, blurry edges, timed shots. They weren't taken by surveillance systems. They were taken by a person, a stalker. Why would someone be following me? She whispered. He exhaled, slow, heavy, controlled. Because you're the only thing he can use against me. Her eyes blurred. I don't understand, why would I matter to a stranger? He didn't answer. The phone on the desk rang. He picked it up. Silence stretched. Then he said, put it through. The next moment, a distorted voice filled the room through the speaker. You can't hide her forever. Every hair on her body stood up. Let her go, the voice hissed, or you'll both burn for this. Her breath hitched as she stumbled back. The voice felt too close, too intimate, too familiar for someone she had never met. He slammed the phone down, cutting the call. She whispered, he wants me dead. His jaw clenched. He won't get you. How can you be so sure? He finally looked at her, something fierce blazing behind his eyes. Because I'll bleed before I let him touch you. Before she could respond, a crash sounded from outside the room. Guards shouted. Footsteps thundered through the hallway. A gunshot cracked the air. He didn't think. He grabbed her wrist and yanked her behind him, pulling her toward the wall just as a masked figure burst into the foyer. The intruder lunged for her. She screamed. He intercepted, slamming into the attacker, the two of them crashing into a table. A vase shattered. Blood smeared across the floor, his blood. She froze, horror gripping her, as he fought with brutal precision, knocking the intruder down long enough for guards to swarm in and drag the man away. He staggered back, one hand pressed to a wound on his arm. She dropped beside him. You're hurt. He caught her wrist gently, his breath heavy, his voice low. You're safe. Her heart cracked. Because you got between us. Always, he whispered. She stared at him, shaken, trembling, not just from fear, but from the truth she was beginning to see. He wasn't protecting her out of obligation. He was protecting her like she mattered, like she had mattered for a very long time. And in the echo of the gunshot, she felt the terrifying certainty settle in her bones. This wasn't an accident. Whatever tied them together began long before the wedding. Blood still stained his sleeve when the guards dragged the intruder away, but he acted as if the wound didn't exist. He pushed himself to his feet too quickly, the motion sharp with adrenaline, and she instinctively reached to steady him. Don't, he said, but his voice was softer than the word deserved, as if he didn't know how to refuse her touch without wanting it too much. You're hurt, she whispered. I've been worse. That's not comforting. He exhaled through his nose, eyes closing for a moment as the pain finally caught up to him. When he opened them again, they were softer, less guarded. Come with me, he said. He didn't wait for her to answer. He guided her down the hall with a hand at her back, light, careful, but strong enough that she felt every ounce of intention in it. He led her into a quiet sitting room, away from the chaos, away from the guards, away from everything except the two of them. The door closed behind them with a muted click. Only then did he sink onto the couch. She gasped when she saw the tear in his shirt, the way blood seeped through his fingers. She moved toward him without thinking, her voice trembling. You need medical attention. I already called for one of the staff. That's not good enough. She knelt beside him, pulling open the first aid kit on the coffee table. You're bleeding. His lips lifted into the faintest, tiredest smile. You're shaking more than I am. Because I watched someone try to kill me, she said, trying to keep her breath steady. And then I watched you nearly die, stopping him. She reached for his arm but paused. Can I? He held her gaze. Then he nodded once silently, giving her permission. She pushed his sleeve up and began cleaning the wound. Up close, she could see every scar on his arm, old knife wounds, gunshot marks, burns that told stories she wasn't sure she wanted to hear. You've been through hell, she murmured. His jaw flexed. I'm still in it. She swallowed, pressing a gauze pad gently to the fresh cut. Because of me. He didn't let her finish. No. You said he wants me. He does. And he's hurting you to get to me. His voice dropped. That part is not your fault. She wrapped the bandage around his arm, hands trembling despite her effort to stay composed. With every touch, she felt him tense, not from pain, but from something else entirely. Something she didn't dare name. When she finished, she let her hands fall to her lap. "Why won't you tell me everything?" "Because you're not ready." She looked up sharply. "Then help me be ready." He stared at her for a long time. A silent, charged moment stretched between them, heavy with questions she didn't know how to ask. Finally, he shifted, leaning back against the couch, exhaustion dragging down his shoulders. "I haven't slept," he said quietly. "Not truly slept in almost a decade." She sat next to him, leaving only a few inches between them. "That's not possible." "It is," he said, "when every night feels like a battlefield." She turned toward him. "Why? What happened?" He didn't answer at first. He stared at the floor like he was looking at a past only he could see. "Someone I cared for died. In front of me. Because of him." Her chest tightened. "The same man after me." He nodded. She whispered, "And you think I'm next. I know you are." Silence fell, deep and trembling. She shifted closer, her knee brushing his, unconsciously seeking his warmth. "I don't want you to fight alone," she whispered. "Good," he murmured, voice almost breaking. "Because I'm tired of being alone." The confession shattered something inside her. Before she could speak, his head dropped slightly, just enough for his forehead to brush her shoulder. She froze. He wasn't collapsing. He wasn't leaning for support. He was resting. Slow, steady breaths warmed her skin. He was falling asleep. Her eyes widened, then softened. This man who commanded armies of guards, who faced death without blinking, who slept less than ghosts, was finally resting against her. She didn't move. She couldn't. She let him lean into her, let his weight settle, let her hand hover near his hair before gently brushing a strand away from his forehead. His breathing evened out, softer, calmer, almost peaceful. She whispered, "Why me?" He didn't answer. He was already asleep. Minutes felt like hours before he stirred again. When he lifted his head, his eyes were hazy, as if waking from a dream he didn't expect. "You were sleeping," she said softly. He blinked. "I haven't done that in years." Her lips parted. "Because of me." He didn't deny it. Instead, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small chain, a necklace. The metal gleamed in the dim light, worn and old. She recognized it instantly. Her breath hitched. That's mine." "You dropped it," he said quietly. "Years ago." Her world tilted. "Where are in the snow?" he murmured. "After you saved me." She stared at him, her pulse pounding in her ears. "Saved you? You don't remember," he said, more statement than question. "But I do." Her hand shook. "I was 12. There was an accident. I remember. Light sirens. Someone calling for help. You pulled me out," he said, before the car exploded. Her breath caught in her throat. A knock at the door interrupted them. One of his guards entered. "Sir, we found tracks near the lake. Fresh ones." He stood immediately, the softness in his eyes hardening. "He's watching." The guard nodded. He turned back to her, his hand closing gently around hers. "You stay near me," he said quietly. "Within 10 meters, no farther." Fear pressed into her bones. "Why?" "What will happen if I'm not?" He held her hand tighter. "Because if he finds you alone, he won't hesitate this time." She stared up at him. He wasn't speaking like a man protecting a stranger. He was speaking like someone who had already lost her once and refused to lose her again. The morning after he confessed the truth of their past, she woke to the sound of frantic footsteps rushing through the hallway. Voices overlapped, phones buzzed, doors slammed. The mansion had turned into a battlefield of whispers. She stepped out of her room just as one of the younger guards sprinted past, shouting into his earpiece, "It's everywhere, every platform, every feed, every news outlet. Sir needs to see this." Her stomach tightened. "What's everywhere?" The guard didn't answer, but she found out seconds later. Another guard approached her carefully, as if unsure whether to speak. "Madam, there's a video of the wedding." Her heart stuttered. "What video?" He hesitated, then handed her a tablet. The screen lit up with a shaky recording, her stepping into the aisle, her sister screaming, the guards dragging her back, the veil being lifted, the whispers, the confusion. A bold caption flashed across the top. The wrong bride millionaire marries a substitute. Below it, millions of views, millions of comments, millions of people who already thought they knew the story. Her throat closed. She scrolled and it only got worse. She tricked everyone. She's a gold digger. She stole her sister's wedding. She looks nothing like the real bride. She planned this. A wave of nausea struck her. Behind her footsteps approached. Heavy, deliberate. The air shifted even before he spoke. You shouldn't be reading that. She turned to find him standing at the doorway, jaw clenched, eyes burning like storm clouds. Did you know about this? She asked, her voice breaking. Not until a few minutes ago. Another news clip auto-played her sister tear-streaked sitting in a studio. She took everything from me, her sister cried into the camera. He was supposed to marry me. She betrayed me and my family. Her chest cracked open. Why is she saying that? She knows I was forced because she's scared he cut in, and fear makes people cruel. She stared at him desperate. They all hate me. They don't matter. They do when the entire world is calling me a liar. Something in his expression hardened, a dangerous glint she'd only seen when he was angriest. They can say what they want. You're still my wife. That doesn't protect me, she whispered. It puts a target on you. He stepped closer, his voice low. The only thing that puts a target on me is letting you out of my sight. Her breath faltered. Another notification popped up, her own social media account, flooded with insults, threats, mockery. She shut the screen off and clutched the tablet to her chest. I don't want this to ruin your reputation, she whispered. You should say something. Tell them the truth. Tell them I wasn't meant to. He cut her off sharply. No. She blinked. What? No one will hear a single word against you. Before she could finish, his phone rang. He answered with a curt, speak. She watched his expression darken. A press conference now, and prepare the car. When he hung up, she knew what he was about to do. They want you to deny me, she said. They expect you to say the wedding was a mistake. He stepped closer, lifting her chin so she had no choice but to meet his gaze. What do you think I'm going to say, I think? She swallowed. I think you're walking into a room full of sharks, and I don't want you bleeding because of me. His thumb brushed her jaw, almost a caress. I don't bleed for anyone else. Her breath hitched. Before she could reply, the housekeeper approached nervously. Sir, they're ready for you. He nodded, then turned back to her. Stay behind me during the conference. No wandering, no hesitation. I shouldn't even go. You're coming, he said, because I'm not hiding you. The ride to the press hall was a blur of flashing cameras and shouted questions. Guards flanked the car. Crowds surged behind barricades. Her hands shook in her lap. He reached over and covered them with his own. Breathe, he murmured. That's when she realized he wasn't calming her for the cameras. He was calming her for him. Inside, the hall lights blazed down on them. Reporters filled every inch of space, microphones ready like weapons. He walked to the podium with her at his side. A reporter shouted, Is she the real bride? Another, Was this a setup? Another, Did she trick you into marrying her? Her pulse thundered. He lifted a hand, silencing the room instantly. She didn't trick me, he said. She didn't force anything. She didn't replace anyone. His voice lowered, dark and clear. She is my wife. And she was the intended bride. Gasps broke out. Cameras whirred, reporters shouted over each other. He didn't flinch. He continued, Anyone who attacks her attacks me. Anyone who threatens her will deal with me directly. She stared at him, stunned. He wasn't protecting himself. He wasn't protecting the company. He wasn't protecting a lie. He was protecting her. As they stepped off stage, she whispered, Why did you say all that? Why defend me so openly? He didn't stop walking, because the world needed to know he said that you are under my protection, that you are not alone. And what about you? She asked quietly. Who protects you? He looked down at her, something raw flickering behind his gaze. You, he said. The word hit her like a trembling shock, small, fragile, powerful. He guided her toward the waiting car, cameras exploding behind them. From now on, he murmured, hand warm at her back, if the world wants to tear you apart, they'll have to tear through me first. And for the first time since the wedding, she felt something shift in her chest. Not safety, not certainty, but the fragile beginning of a truth she wasn't ready to name. She wasn't fighting alone anymore. The echoes of the press conference were still vibrating through the mansion when they stepped inside. Reporters camped outside the gates. Drones hovered above the lake and social feeds churned with theories. She felt the weight of every headline pressing against her ribs. He didn't slow his stride even once. "Downstairs," he said quietly. She followed him through the corridor, her heartbeat uneven. When he keyed in a hidden code beside the wine cellar, a panel slid open, revealing stairs she had never seen before. Cold air swept up from below. She hesitated. Where are we going? To the only place safe enough to explain the truth. She followed him into a room filled with screens, maps, surveillance feeds, and underground command center carved beneath the mansion. The walls hummed with generators. Guards stood silently at their posts. She stared, stunned. "What? Is all of this a preparation?" he said simply. "For a war I didn't start." He walked to a central screen and tapped it. A dossier appeared, a man's face staring back through grainy grayscale. "His name is Victor Hale." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. "He's the one who's been watching you," he said. "For years." Her breath caught. "I don't even know him." "He knows you," he replied, "because he was looking for a way to get to me, and he found it through you." She shook her head in disbelief. "Why me? What connection could I possibly?" "You saved my life." The words hung between them like a blade. "You pulled me from a burning wreck," he continued quietly. "He saw you there, and from that moment you became the leverage he wanted." She stared at him, her pulse racing. "I was 12, and it didn't matter." His voice grew tight. "To someone like him, a child is still a tool." She pressed a hand to her mouth. The images that flickered through her mind, the snow, the blood, the siren suddenly felt sharp and more real. The scream she remembered hearing had been his. Before she could speak again, he continued. "Victor approached your sister, offered her money, influence, security. He used her fear, manipulated her. She was a pawn, nothing more. She felt something inside her crack. She never meant to hurt anyone." "No," he agreed softly, "but she was the first step. You were the end game." Her stomach twisted. On the screen, satellite images zoomed in on the perimeter of the lake. Heat signatures flickered movement in the trees. She stepped back. "Is he here?" "Watching," he said, "waiting to see if you'll break." She trembled. "What does he want?" "To kill me, no." His eyes darkened. "To make me watch." Her breath faltered. He turned from the screens and cupped her face with both hands, grounding her. "I will not let that happen." She swallowed, voice unsteady. "What are we supposed to do? We strike first." Her stomach dropped. "How?" "We'll lure him out," he said. "On our terms, not his." She stared at him, horrified. "Lure him out with me." "You're asking me to be bait." "No," he said, stepping closer. "I'm asking you to stay close while I end this. He follows patterns. If he thinks you're vulnerable alone, he'll come. And if he does," his expression hardened into something feral, "he won't leave alive." Before she could respond, a phone buzzed on the table. One of his men grabbed it, frowned, and handed it to him. "A message from Victor," the guard said. He opened it. Her blood ran cold when she saw the words, "Take one more step beside him, and I'll end your story the way I ended hers." She felt the room collapse inward. Hers who, his fingers tightened around the phone knuckles whitening. "Someone I cared for," he said quietly. "Someone he took from me." Her voice cracked. "And now he wants to take me too." His eyes lifted, burning with something raw and possessive. "He won't get you. He'll never touch you. Not while I'm breathing." The room went still. He walked to a nearby table and unlocked a drawer, pulling out a compact earpiece and handheld tracker. He placed them in her hands. "You'll keep these on at all times." Her fingers shook. "What are you planning, a trap?" He pressed a sequence on the screen. A map lit up with red markers forming a ring around the property. "We'll stage a separation. Make him believe I'm losing control. It will pull him out of the shadows." She shook her head, fear rising. "This is dangerous. So is doing nothing." He stepped closer until his breath brushed her forehead. She felt every word he spoke. "You asked why you mattered to him," he said. "But the real question is why you matter to me." Her pulse stuttered. "Why do I?" His answer was soft, devastating. "Because losing you would break me, and he knows it." Silence fell, heavy, intimate, until a guard rushed in. "Sir, we have movement in the woods, approaching fast." He looked at her jaw set. "It's starting." The screens flickered with red alerts. Guards moved into formation. The mansion trembled with preparation. He reached for her hand. "Stay behind me," he murmured. "Not because you're weak, but because you're the one thing I can't risk." She swallowed hard. "And what about you?" His eyes darkened with a promise that chilled and warmed her at the same time. "I don't care what happens to me as long as you survive." And before she could speak, before she could breathe, he turned toward the stairs, toward Victor, toward the end of the hunt, toward the moment everything would be decided. The night felt too still, too watchful, as if the entire world was holding its breath. She stood near the waiting SUV, hidden beneath the canopy of trees, heart pounding as his plan unfolded around her. Guards moved like shadows through the dark, silent and disciplined. Every step was measured, every breath controlled, and she was the center of it. "Stay close," he said again, though he'd already repeated it a dozen times. His hand brushed hers briefly, a grounding touch before he stepped out into the open clearing. She followed, pulse racing. It didn't take long, a rustle in the trees, a crack of branches, then a figure emerged from the shadows. Victor Hale. He was taller than she expected, dressed in black eyes gleaming with a predator's satisfaction. He held his hands behind his back as though arriving for a business negotiation rather than a hunt. "You made this too easy," Victor said, smirking. "I didn't think you'd be reckless enough to bring her out alone." He didn't answer immediately. He moved forward until he stood between her and Victor, forming a barrier without hesitation. "Step away from her," he warned. Victor laughed. "And if I don't, she's not yours." "She was never yours either," Victor shot back. "She was a child who happened to appear at the wrong moment, and you've made her into an obsession ever since." She froze. Wrong moment obsession. Her breath snagged painfully in her chest. "You want her gone because of me," he said through gritted teeth. "Because she saved me, because she keeps me alive." Victor's smile sharpened. "Because she makes you weak." The words hung in the cold air. Her heart lurched. Victor took another step forward. "Your mother knew the truth before you ever did. She tried to warn you. She told you that girl was a threat." His jaw tightened. "My mother said she was the one person who could save me." Victor tilted his head. "Same thing." She felt the world tilt under her feet. "Your mother, she knew me, she met you," he said softly, not looking back. "She knew." Victor scoffed. "She was naive. She thought fate put that girl in your path. But I knew better. Fate doesn't give gifts, it gives leverage." Then everything happened at once. Victor pulled something from behind his back, a pistol aimed straight at her. Her scream caught in her throat. Before she could react, he moved. He threw himself in front of her, both arms around her as the first shot tore into the air. The sound cracked through the clearing like lightning. He grunted, staggering, but didn't fall. Guards burst from the trees. The night erupted in gunfire. Victor spun, firing wildly. The guards tackled him to the ground, disarming him in seconds. Silence crashed down like a wave. She opened her eyes and found him still holding her, his body curved around hers like a shield. Blood stained his jacket. "Are you?" Her voice broke. "No, no, no." He lifted his hand, weakly brushing her cheek. "I'm fine. You were shot. It's just a graze," he murmured. "You should see the other guy." A shaky laugh slipped from her, despite the tears flooding her lashes. The guards dragged Victor away, shouting orders into radios, but she barely noticed. Her world had narrowed to the warmth of his hand, the steadiness of his gaze, the quiet relief that broke through his pain. "You didn't hesitate," she whispered. He winced as he straightened. "You think I'd ever let anyone take you from me? But you could have died." His eyes softened. "If it meant keeping you alive, I would have died gladly." Her breath shattered. She pressed her forehead to his chest, overwhelmed by fear and gratitude and something deeper, something she no longer wanted to deny. He wrapped an arm around her, pulling her close. "You saved me once," he said quietly. "You saved me again tonight just by being here." She looked up at him. "I didn't do anything." "You existed," he whispered. "That's enough." Later, when Victor was secured and the guards had withdrawn, he led her to a room she had never been allowed into, the locked room on the second floor. He unlocked it with trembling fingers. Inside were photographs, journals, a music box, a single hospital bracelet hanging on the wall, his mother's handwriting on a framed letter, and a small, cracked silver necklace. She stepped closer, breath catching when she realized it matched the one he'd given her, the one she'd lost in the snow. She kept it, he said quietly. She told me, if you find this girl again, don't make the same mistake twice. Her eyes stung. Your mother. She believed in me. She believed in fate, he corrected gently. I believe in you. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a ring box. Her breath stilled. He knelt, not with grandeur, not with ceremony, but with pure sincerity written in every line of his face. I won't force you, he said softly. Not this time. But if you choose me, I'll spend my life proving that you weren't a substitute. You were the beginning. Her vision blurred. Yes, she whispered. Of course, yes. He exhaled shakily, relief flooding his expression as he slid the ring onto her finger. And for the first time since the wedding, she felt chosen, not trapped, not replaced, not hunted. Chosen. He pulled her into his arms, holding her like something sacred. Let's go home, he murmured, and this time the word home felt real. If you're still here, I'd love to know what moment touched you most in their journey. Do you believe in fate or in choices? Share your thoughts in the comments, hit the like button if the story stayed with you, and remember to subscribe so you don't miss the next story waiting for you. Your support helps these stories continue. I'll be right here waiting for you in the next chapter.